reading from the Acts of the Apostles. When the time for Pentecost was fulfilled, they were all in one place together. And suddenly there came from the sky a noise like a strong driving wind, and it filled the entire house in which they were. Then there appeared to them tongues as of fire, which parted and came to rest on each one of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in different tongues, as the Spirit enabled them to proclaim. Now there were devout Jews from every nation under heaven staying in Jerusalem. At this sound they gathered in a large crowd, but they were confused because each one heard them speaking in his own language. They were astounded, and in amazement they asked, "Are not all these people who are speaking Galileans? Then how does each of us hear them in his native language? We are Parthians, Medes, and Elamites, inhabitants of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt and the districts of Libya near Cyrene, as well as travelers from Rome, both Jews and converts to Judaism, Cretans and Arabs. Yet we hear them speaking in our own tongues of the mighty acts of God." The word of the Lord.
Our first reading on the solemnity of Pentecost comes from the Acts of the Apostles, the account of the sending of the Holy Spirit on the apostles gathered in the upper room in Jerusalem. We are familiar with the story, but it is good to pay attention to some details that lead us to a deeper appreciation of the event of the coming of the Holy Spirit as the gift of the Father through the risen Lord. According to this account, the Holy Spirit came as a noise, like a strong driving wind. We know that the Holy Spirit is even described as a tempest. Oh, not just a wind, but a strong wind, even a bit violent wind, making such noise. Now this brings us to the vision of Genesis. At the moment of creation, the formless mass, the abyss, was where the Spirit of God hovered. Now we are being told by the Acts of the Apostles, this wind called the Holy Spirit is blowing again, blowing mightily, a signal that a new creation is happening. A new creation which is part of Jesus' ministry, death, resurrection, and ascension into heaven. The Paschal mystery now reaches its peak in the new creation with the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. We are now expecting a new heavens and a new earth, thanks to the outpouring of the Spirit. But it is not just by becoming a strong, mighty wind that the Holy Spirit was manifested. The Holy Spirit also appeared in the form of tongues of fire that descended on the head of each of the disciples. Tongues of fire, fire, fire of love. The Holy Spirit is the love of Father and Son, which is given to us as the very loving presence of the Father and the Son to us. Tongues, the capacity to speak, the capacity to communicate. And we see the miracle with the descent of the Holy Spirit. The people, Jews from different countries, speaking different tongues, suddenly heard the disciples from Galilee speaking to them in their own tongues. These Galileans were equipped by the Spirit to communicate to peoples of other countries and other languages using their native tongues. This is a reversal of Babel, where the different tongues led to confusion. Here we find the Holy Spirit not negating the different languages, but making people speak each other's language in their diversity and taking up the diverse languages into one language of understanding. Love, understanding, recreating humanity. Human beings that used to be separated from each other, who could not understand each other, leading to a confused world, a world where division has become a rule, a world where discrimination, walls and barriers being set up. It doesn't look like one world. Now, with the blowing of the Holy Spirit, inflaming love in each one, and giving each one the capacity to communicate so that understanding, mutual understanding could be achieved, we are already beginning to see a renewed humanity. But the tongues are used to proclaim the marvels that God has done. We need this outpouring of the Spirit at every moment of our lives, so that the renewal of humanity, so broken, we see everywhere in our country and even in many parts of the world, how division really is eating up humanity. We need the Holy Spirit. Please come. Give us tongues that would make us speak the language of each one, so that we could understand each other in love.